Hey there, thank you so much for listening to Something Super Spiritual. My name is Jeffrey Peck, and I am a psychic medium. If you are seeking conversation with loved ones on the other side, or discussion about spirituality, life after life, and anything in between, join me as we discuss all things spirit. We are collectively experiencing a spiritual awakening right now and recognizing that we are much, much more than we once believed. We don't die, and life doesn't end. We are eternal spiritual beings living in this crazy 3D virtual world of existence. Let's talk about it. So, Chris Wilson, it is so great to see you and meet you like this. You come with such high regard. I was emailed about 6 times from our mutual friend, Susan Brochin. You got to get a hold of Chris. You got to get a hold of Chris. You got to get a hold of Chris. So I'm very grateful to have you here with us today to talk about the Akashic Records. I find it so fascinating, and people ask me often, what I know about the Akashic Records, and I'm at about a grade school level of education when it comes to the Akashic Records. So what I was going to read this, but you know what? Let's, why don't you tell us, give us an introduction as to where you came from with respect to spirituality. Has spirituality always been at the forefront of your mind since a child, or is this something that kind of like blossomed in middle age?
Well, as a child, it wasn't really, because I used to sit in church and think, that's not true. Jesus wouldn't have agreed with that. And I have had a lifetime, soul aspect of me was around, when Jesus was around. And I used to sit there thinking, but as a child, I always had a feeling that I had something really important to teach in this lifetime. And it wasn't really till I tried church again in my 30s, and wasn't right. And one day I had this revelation that religion and spirituality are different, and that I didn't need to go to church, and I could actually just sit in my garden and connect with. And so probably in the 1990s, and a lot of people listening to this probably weren't even born, I connected, and and then it became a really important part of my life, but I kept it a bit hidden. I started out teaching conscious parenting. I created a course which was designed to build up self-esteem of parents and children, because to me, that was the most important thing. I thought the best parents are ones that really love and believe in themselves. So I wasn't overtly spiritual, but you could always sort of tell the little parents in the room who were open. But one of the reasons I did that as well was because I had 3 young children, and my oldest daughter at that time was really struggling. And, I used all the techniques of conscious parenting, like we had family meetings, and I pulled out all the stops with my parenting. But, my daughter Alice she just didn't love herself at all. It did nothing, to build up her self-esteem. So to me, I thought, well, there's something deeper than this. It's almost like something that you bring in with you, when you come in. And I always felt with my daughter, and I've written about this in my books. That's the first one, mainly with the book. About it's like she came in with like a shadow hanging over her. She just didn't want to be here, and she always found life hard, and she got bullied. And so at the end of 2007, everything sort of came to a head, and she had like a massive breakdown, and something had happened to her like a couple of years earlier that had parallels with the past life trauma that she brought in, to this lifetime to try to move beyond.
Sure.
But I didn't know this at the time. And she just didn't want to be here anymore. And I won't go into too much detail, but she was just actively self-harming and trying to leave the planet, but for years. And the only thing we could do to keep her safe, we were really distraught. My husband and I were just a whole family.
Sure.
And the only thing, she ended up having to be almost locked up in a psych ward for 3 years to keep her, really. And it was really, really a very dark time in my life. So sort of 3 years into that, we moved house and we were living by a beach, and I'd go for walks, and the Akashic Records just kept popping up. I'd read about them because when I first sort of embraced spirituality, I read every book I could lay my hands on.
Oh, I know
And,
that. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I was widely read, and the Akashic Records kept popping in, and I thought, God, I think the answer to what's going on is in there. And I think the answer, it's a soul question, and the answers are in the Akashic Records. So I need to access them. So I went online and I found Linda Howe in Canada, and I learned her method. I don't teach her method,
Mm-hmm.
and the way I connect with the records is quite different to her now, but that got me started, and I'll always be grateful to her for that. She's written a book, How to Read the Akashic Records, I think it's called. So that
Yep.
started me off. And what I know, so immediately I went in and I asked all these questions about, go, why am I my daughter's mother? What do I have, why is this happening? You can't open someone's Akashic record without their permission.
Mm-hmm.
And, she wouldn't give permission then, and that was fine. But I got a lot of answers through my Akashic record. And I looked at our soul contract, and eventually she did make me access hers, and I just found, I didn't push her, but she did. And the answers were she came in with this huge soul trauma from her most recent past life and many other lifetimes before that. And the incident that triggered everything, in this life was very similar to, those incidents. And on what I've mainly in my first book, the main message is that when we really are suffering on a human level, on a soul level, it's absolutely perfect. And this was perfect because what she'd come in to do was to move beyond all this trauma. And so, of course, what happens is you have a similar incident in your current life that sort of triggers it all and brings it all up. And it has taken years, but she's in a much better place now. And she's still, yeah. So things have sort of gone. My second book's called Tragic to Magic, but it's not all about my daughter. So basically, what happened then is, the Akashic Records, I got all the answers to the questions, but I think the biggest way they helped me was through their energy, because what I've discovered is that they're a pure portal to fifth dimensional energy, which of course is the exact same quantum energy that we're moving into as a planet. And they just lifted, nothing changed outwardly. We still, we had to, all these terrible, terrible things were happening. But I felt a lot better. It's like they sort of lifted me up. It's like they comforted me, they calmed me, they relieved the stress, and I was coping so much better. And so the energy is just fantastic. They help me in lots of ways, the Akashic Records. And so I just have thought, well, if they can help me, they can help everybody. And that got me on the path. And I sort of really discovered them in 2010. In 2011, I started just giving readings, and now I teach classes and do lots, a lot more than that.
Okay. All right. So the Akashic Records, you go into this ethereal space for answers to questions.
So what? Oh, sorry.
And so I was just going to ask for those who might be listening who haven't quite understood or heard Akashic Record.
Yeah.
What's an easy definition of the Akashic Records?
I know, I haven't really said that. So the Akashic Records are an energetic record of every experience we have ever had as souls on Earth.
Okay.
They used to be like sort of the preserve of just a few.
Yep.
And some of people may have heard of Edgar Cayce or Casey,
Yes.
who was able to access them. But in that old energy, it wasn't, many people weren't really allowed to access them. But what's happened in the last 20 or so years is that they've been opened up much more widely, and they're really on trend now. And
Yeah.
the moment has come. And but you do have to have purity of intent. They don't, but of course most people that decide they want to access or learn how to open them do have that. So you have to sort of come from the right heart space.
Oh,
But
sure.
I sort of feel people aren't really attracted to learning unless they they come from this space. And so so how I open them is, I've got something I call the access intention, and it's pure words, but the words were sort of channeled through, and they seem, they do the trick.
Kind of like a
And
prayer.
yeah, it's like a prayer, but it's sort of an intention statement. because the thing about the energy of the records, which is it's quantum, I think the most powerful attribute of quantum energy, and this sort of connects us to the whole ascension process too, is that it responds directly to our intention. So you sort of, if you say the words, it's almost like right, and all the sort of quantum little elements out there sort of rally around to sort of, give you the answer or retrieve the information. Or so I just say words, but always in the first class, I take people, to the place on the other side of the veil where the Akashic Records are, and it's like a big library, and it's called the Hall of Records. But it takes about 20 minutes, and I always say, look, you don't have to do this, but some of them like to visualize,
Yeah.
and I always say to them too, you don't have to keep saying my words, use my method, but your words are probably more powerful. So if you want to, change them, and a lot of people, particularly if they move on with the training and become practitioners in the records and things, they'll create their own statement. So it's really, really simple. And the only thing is the energy is not really static, it's very dynamic. And so if you're giving a reading for yourself, like you have to connect with the energy and start it moving. You can't sit like you're in an exam room and wait for the answers to come into your head, because it's from the heart. And you'd probably relate to that doing the work you do, because it's almost like you've got to put like yourself out on one side.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
And that's what I've learned how to do. And I just lived my whole life, most of my life, I try to live like that now, and it's a lot easier, I must say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So when you're accessing the Akashic Records, you're in a meditation state, a meditative state.
No, I'm just sitting
Oh,
at home on my chair with like a drink.
oh, okay.
And
Okay.
I'm totally me, and I
Do,
just say the words.
do
Yeah.
you
And,
do you do you see what do you see then? What's your experience? Like, I'm trying to
well,
understand,
it's
like,
it's different with me. I get words really easily,
okay.
so I will get words usually. And sometimes, like, I'm working with a client, and like I can't get it. I sort of open their Akashic record, and then not much is coming. So then I might say, it is the 30th of May, what's 30th of May, or whatever the date is, and then it does come. But most people, I get something, and sometimes it's just like a third eye sort of vision.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not always about us past lives. It's not, because when I open someone's Akashic record, I ask, what's it important for them to know right now?
Mm-hmm.
But some of them have got like something from a past life that needs to be cleared or dealt with. So every person is different. And I just get a sense. And once I start talking, like the words just come. And it's best, like, if I don't think about it.
Sure. Oh, always. Yeah.
you,
Always.
and because I've done it for so long, like, it's really easy for me. But it's also like easy for the people I teach. Like in every class, there might be, most people can easily manage to do it, and it's just so simple. And quite a few of my students are already accessing the records anyway. They don't realize it,
Yeah.
because, within our so-called junk DNA, which I don't call junk anymore, but it's non-coding, like
Mhm.
the DNA is one of those strands. And these are the strands that are being activated in the process of ascension, which will sort of take us from being limited little human beings to sort of expansive soul being. So one of the layers is the Akashic record in there, and all that Akashic information is also in our macabre field that surrounds our bodies. So a lot of healers just pick up on it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so
I find it so fascinating because years ago, in 2006, I became attuned to Reiki, and that was my ignition. I mean, the side effect for me was it ignited all the spiritual senses. So since then, I've been on this constant seeking and experiencing what my role is with this spiritual work. Um, and and I think that I'm very visual. I'm very visual. So when I go into meditation and I go places, I see a lot, which I do believe it's on the other side, it's over there, wherever there is, But I specifically remember being in this meditation where I was suddenly in this place. It was so beautiful. I mean, it was mountainy. It was like snow-capped mountains in the distance. I would imagine it to be like maybe what Switzerland might look like, or Austria, where it was really green in the valleys and snow-capped tops on the Alps. And there were humongous stone buildings that looked almost Greek, right? And this man walked up to me with, this, what you would imagine this like master would look like, almost like a wizard vibe, like a long beard, long hair, long robe. And he walked me up to this building, but this building was enormous. I mean, like the doors looked like they were stories tall. And he just so easily just opened up this humongous door, and there was like these halls of books, really big books.
Yeah.
And I mean, huge, right? Not just like a regular book that we would hold in our hands. So I think that a lot of that was maybe symbolic or metaphoric, but what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that I would?
I think you've been to the Hall of Records.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's what it looks like to me. And when I take people there, like I get them to connect with a keeper of the records, that's going to help them with their work in the records. And a lot of them look a lot like, that master that you saw. So, and I love what you said about igniting. I love your story about being in your wardrobe with your Reiki.
Yeah.
Igniting that. Because one thing I just want to add is that what I'm finding, particularly in the last few years with my students, is it's almost like the Akashic Records are sort of gateway, and they ignite, their spiritual senses. They're almost like they're a match. You strike the match and it's just like, whew, and that opens them up to all their other abilities. But what I feel is a lot of us at the moment, we've got it all sitting there, but we don't know how to access or how to use it. And so, accessing the Akashic Records is one way.
Yeah.
Like it's a pathway, and it's sort of a safe pathway because it's beautiful, loving, compassionate energy. So it's sort of a safe way to do it. But what's happening now with my students, like a lot of them combine the Akashic Records with their own modalities. So there's a lot of Reiki, talking of Reiki, like Reiki healers and things like that. But the beauty of the Akashic Records is it's like you can bring the soul into the equation, and they can be combined with a lot of things like EFT, theta healing, Reiki, like they're bringing it in, and just so it sort of almost takes their abilities and their work to a whole new level. And I just feel that true healing can't take place unless you go to this level of it. You're doing it from the level of the soul.
Love
You
that.
go to that seat of the soul, and for
Mm-hmm.
that, you really do need some Akashic information. But is yeah.
What? Okay, so you had mentioned earlier you're talking about like your daughter's experience, for instance, bringing through past life traumas that are meant to be addressed and healed in this lifetime, and working through all that through the heart and into the fifth dimensional energy. It's really interesting because I talk to so many people about all things spiritual, right? I mean, all the different modalities and pathways, and there's so many different roads all going to the same place. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
it's true. And you've got the people who do the quantum healing, the QHHT, quantum healing therapy. You do that too?
Well, I trained with Dolores. She came to my
With
town.
Dolores Cannon, right?
Oh, she loves New Zealand, you see.
Yeah.
She's not around anymore, but she actually came to Wellington, where I live in New Zealand, twice, and I did her classes like years ago.
Yeah. So accessing, past lives through the hypnosis and uncovering those traumas that, we're struggling with today and we're moving through and whatever. And then another pathway being the Akashic Records, going into those and
The thing,
I love it.
like giving someone a regression, I quite like, because it means that, they come out with, and it's really empowering.
Mhm.
What I tend to do is I sort of see what the issues are
Mhm.
when I open their Akashic record and talk with them, and then we work, to clear. I do a lot of clearing, healing, releasing of just old programming from lifetimes in a lower vibrational third dimensional energy. We can't like carry all the baggage of sort of limiting beliefs, old fears, trauma, patterns that are sabotaging us. We cannot carry those that baggage, into the higher vibration. So as you can see, at the middle on this planet at the moment, we're in this huge releasing, purging.
Yeah.
And it's not really that comfortable. And I think COVID was a great catalyst, and so even if like here, what's going on, it's still a difficult time. But what I teach my students is I teach them tools for helping release, the imprints. I've worked with Saint Germain a lot and teach them how to do it as well. And what will quite often happen is, sometimes I'll open someone's Akashic record and I'll see, like in my third eye, like a past life self that's just completely, not at peace, is struggling, is suffering, and obviously really impacting, the person now. And they just wanting to be moved on. So I take them through a little process where they talk to this past life self and bring them to an absolute state of peace so they can actually understand that what they went through was needed and it was just a part of the path. There was wisdom, but what they did wasn't in vain. It planted seeds for the future, that the current present day version of them, actually carries their legacy. And so what I do, but quite a few people have these past life aspects draining on them. And sometimes it's not one, like it might be a whole group
Oh, sure.
of past life aspects that have been persecuted throughout time. So then you bring in the whole group, but you can't go around and talk to them individually. You talk to them as a group, but you bring them to a state of peace and understanding. So then instead of draining the person and blocking them from moving forward, they actually they will help. They're going to help. And, we don't leave that past life aspect till they're sort of smiling. And like when they say, oh, they look happy, they're smiling, I'm like, phew. But yeah, so I do that a lot and I teach that technique because it's quite a powerful one. So it sort of combines a bit like a regression visualization with just powerful words that sort of, can affect the healing.
Why do you suppose we carry these traumas from life to life? Why?
Well, the thing is, we've always had them. Well, human beings have, loved hurting each other, basically. This planet in a lower vibration, which we've been in for thousands of years. Except for a few little times, like in, Golden Atlantis, we weren't in. But it's normally been 3D, and we've just hurt each other. There's just, we've competed, we've been greedy, we've manipulated, we've killed. And this is what we're trying to transcend now, and we will. We're going to do it. Like they did it in the Pleiades. They're trying to help us. We're here. This is what we're going through to get beyond this and just to stop, all these sort of baser, like little human behaviors. So if you're an old soul, which I suspect you are, and everyone's an old soul, because if you're not an old soul on this planet, you're an old soul from somewhere else. Like, there's not like a hierarchy, but you'll have layers and layers and layers and layers. And some of us, have had lifetimes where we've had these gifts that have made us a bit different. And, and when things go wrong, people always want to, in a community, people will point the finger and they want to find a scapegoat. And so there's a lot of my clients that have had these experiences. So it's about sort of helping them release all that and sort of turning it around so it's seen as sort of a good thing. And, there's at the moment, like trauma is sort of the buzzword, and there's some amazing, new trauma modalities. And, my daughter has been really helped by EMDR.
Sure.
So trauma is fantastic, but it's like the whole world's got PTSD, the whole human race, and we have, because we're not just letting go of our current life trauma, and most of us have had some, but it's from all our lifetime. So it's like massive, but it doesn't have to be a long, rigorous process. It can be quick, and we're not doing it alone because there's a lot of spiritual beings that are assisting. And also extraterrestrials energies as well.
I love that.
So
I love that thought.
So the thing about, if you've got your Akashic records open with somebody, like even if I haven't got mine open, but I'm, say, giving you a session, yours is open. yours is open. So we're in the sort of beautiful force field of quantum fifth dimensional energy. And one of the attributes of it, apart from the intention being powerful, is that anything else quantum sort of almost comes alive and activated the minute you're in there. So the quantum, you can heal the body, the quantum elements of our body are basically the cellular intelligence, but also, the non-coding DNA that is. So you can work with that. You can do physical healing, and also the emotional healing as well. And, spirit can come in easily because you're in this beautiful bubble, high vibration bubble, the ascended masters, the angelic realms, extraterrestrials, if you want them. So it's a lovely healing, it's a lovely healing, safe healing space.
With respect to the soul, and we have all of these experiences in our lives, past lives, future lives, today's life yesterday, so we all struggle with challenges, whether, like you were saying earlier, imprints from childhood or imprints from past lives. What is the point? What is the point to all of this, do you suppose?
I think we've all chosen on a soul level to come into an experiment. What I understand on this planet, a lot of us, the old souls, we've been here for thousands of years, just reincarnating. But the soul is huge, so there's always bits and pieces of us elsewhere. What I understand on a deep level, what I've heard is, and it does resonate with me, is that it's sort of like an experiment, but if we successfully get through it and are able to transition into the fifth dimensional and ascend, our wisdom, our experience as souls is going to help so many other places, out there in the universe and in the galaxy. So it's a very unique experience on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Because we feel emotions intensely. We come in here, before we come, we can see the plan. We think, yeah, I'd love that to happen. Yeah, no, I'll get attached when I'm 14. You tick all those boxes. But when you actually arrive here, you forget all of that, and we have to navigate it. And so it's a very, very, as it's a very difficult school. And the people that are here at the moment, all of us who are here on Earth at this time, are not really here probably to put our feet up and relax. We've all got a job to do because it's just, we've been waiting thousands of years for this. And the thing is, we're going through it so quickly. Basically, since it was building up, but the 21st of December 2012, it sort of really kicked off. And the Mayans said, oh, that's the end of the world. And it was. But it was the end of that 3D world of suffering. And some of the teachers I follow, I'll say who I like Diana Cooper, but also Tim Wilde in the UK, lives in Dorset. Anyway, they sort of say it's going to take about 10 years, but it's not really linear time.
Right.
So we'll be mainly through this process by 2032. And so it's very, the Pleiadians apparently went through this 2 million years ago, but it took much longer. So we're really fast tracking it. And so the purpose is just really an experiment, but it's also to gain wisdom. It will help others out there. And it's, if you put your hand up for planet Earth, pat yourself on the back because, it takes a lot of courage. It's not an easy
gig. I agree.
And people have to understand there's a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel I help people do. I don't talk all about the planet to every client, but there's a much, much bigger picture. And once you see that bigger picture and where you fit in, it really can give you hope and it can help you understand and give you the will to keep going. And yeah. So that's what the Akashic Records are really good at, giving that bigger picture.
So if I understand correctly, the Akashic Records are records of everything that was, is, will be, right? Is that
Yeah, they've got the potentials for the future as well as it's not just past lives, but the future potentials, of course, are what we're creating.
Okay.
Because quantum energy, we create our own reality. Really.
Right. Oh, okay. So thank you. That's exactly where I was leading with this. So, okay. so if it's everything that has happened that is happening, and it's much bigger than just us as souls, people. It's places, countries,
Yep.
animals,
Yeah.
planets. I mean, all that stuff. We feel that we come into this life with a soul plan, right? We've come into this life with a soul plan.
Yep.
And then obviously we get here, the veil of amnesia happens, and here we go, try to stumbling through the dark to figure it out, right? Where then, where in all of that does free will lie?
Well, the thing about being human is we do have freedom of choice. And in other places, apparently, they don't. And the human experience is unique. One of the reasons it's unique is because we have that freedom of choice. And that's the difficulty. Because, you can get completely off track. And I have had many lifetimes where I've got off track, and I probably would not be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for my last lifetime that got very off track.
Sure.
But we haven't all been these wonderful, fantastic, pure little people. Like in my last lifetime, I was pulled into something which I sort of knew was wrong. And so this lifetime for me was during World War II. And I wasn't really a bad person, but I got sort of hooked into things in Germany. Anyway, moving on. And it's interesting because my daughter's last life was in a camp in Germany. So there's sort of a parallel there. So this and the concentration camps, like, I'm not speaking like, because all the suffering, it was just dreadful.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that keep popping up in my family and have, I knew in that lifetime. So that's part of the plan too. So in a lot of ways, this lifetime's sort of been about redemption. But I don't think if I'd been through that and felt so heartbroken and heartsick and depressed at the end of my life before this one, I'd be doing what I am now, because it's been like a springboard, because I just remember almost from the day I was born thinking, I can't, I can't fail this time.
Right.
And so I've had that sort of guiding through, and it's going to be easier in the future, and a higher vibration for us to stay connected with, our Akashic record, our soul. So it's not, the light is getting turned on. We're not going to be totally in the dark, but we have been. And that's the difficulty, because it's making those choices. And, a lot of us have made choices in other lifetimes that we regret. And even in this lifetime, it's
totally. Oh my God. As you're talking about this, it's ringing bells of what I experienced, recognizing some past lives where I wasn't a real nice person. I mean, it was from about 2002 to 2012, and few times more since. But I rather than going to a traditional therapist, I would go, my therapist was a hypnotherapist, and we would do all this hypnosis work, and she worked with Dr. Brian Weiss with past lives. And so I did a number of past life regressions. And I recognized some really frightening experiences that I lived. I was not a very nice person. And I don't buy into the fact that karma is punitive, that karma is a punishing / cause and effect. You know what I mean? Like that feels too judgmental, too patriarchal, Catholic, Christian. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So,
yeah.
So, in discovering these few past lives where I wasn't a very nice person, I one of my things in life has been really struggling with my own self-worth. Am I enough? All of that. And I had this experience in Sedona back in 2007. I had gone through the regressions that I was just telling you about, but part of me was like, did I make that up? I probably made that up. I was just dreaming or whatever. And so I asked. I was like, all right, you guys, you know what? Give me some evidence. Give me some proof. Give me a sign. Give me something that I was not making that up. I go to Sedona. I'm with the channeler, and she's doing her thing. And she closes her eyes, goes to where she goes, comes back, and she says, I understand what your struggle is. She says, literally, like almost word for word, she saw those past lifetimes, the same thing that I saw in my regressions. And she told me that I, in this life, have been struggling with how I was so cruel in the past lives, finding it difficult to forgive myself, and that I am enough, that I am okay, that I can move forward. And I came out of that. I mean, I think I had to cry for a good 20 minutes because it was so beautiful to have had the experience I did in my own regression, and then to have asked for a sign, and here's this seemingly random, right? Synchronistic. I wandered into her store and the one thing led to another, and here this information comes at me.
Well, you got the answer you were looking for, and that was great confirmation.
Yeah.
And you were able to help let that go, which
Yeah.
means, you've been able to move it. Now you're helping so many people and just doing incredible things, and we've all had lifetimes where we have done terrible things, but we can't hang on to that.
Yeah.
Sort of letting go, just sort of moving on really, and knowing that's part of the human experience. And we can't beat ourselves up, and many of us, particularly like the old souls that have been here again and again and again and again and again, self-worth is probably the biggest hurdle, and self-doubt that we have to sort of and I had because the thing is, the end of my last lifetime, I just sort of ignored my whole family. I wouldn't talk to them. I was so like, and I had my little face to the wall. I've seen myself. I was depressed. No one could reach me. And in this lifetime, I was born and immediately, prematurely put in an incubator, and all those old feelings, like from day one, returned of, oh, I'm not good enough, and I'm a terrible person, all that.
Yeah.
So almost from so part of my journey, particularly like as a child, that's why I thought the self-esteem thing was so important, for parents. And but now I can see, like, I set that up for myself to sort of get where I am now, and it's all like, it's just perfect when you see where all the pieces of the puzzle fit in.
Oh, yeah. And when that's what I love about this, the Akashic Records, this modality, this ability, the realness of it, because it's like going directly to the source. It's going right to the right to the source. And and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's quick. Like, you can get the answers quickly, you can move on. If you've got something that keeps coming up, sometimes, like when we're letting go of a past life memory, or fear or something like that, we almost feel like we're going mad, because it's almost, as we're sort of releasing it, it's like, like we have to almost re-experiencing it, re-experience it. But what you can do, like, I do teach a really simple technique, and you have an intention, and you bring in the violet flame, and you just say the words to release. And I teach all my level 1 students that, and so they can work with their own process. And so it's a great tool to self-awareness. And if you have any questions, or you have to make a decision, you can just go in and give yourself a reading. But when you're in the records a lot, when you're in the energy a lot, you don't even have to almost give yourself readings anymore, because you have that clarity. Because what they also do is they connect you to the soul and to your truth. And talking about, being nice, no good, bad person, I think, like, I was not always a great person in this life, but I'm much nicer now, because when you're in the energy of that pure soul energy, like, you can't gossip,
Right.
like, you don't judge, like, you do become a much better person. And I needed to.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing too, because it becomes like part of who you are, and you're emanating, and you just cannot go there.
Completely.
And so, it helps in that way as well. Like, it just lifts, like, the light's coming in all the time on the planet, but the Akashic Record sort of always brings more light in, and it does sort of bring a lot of the other stuff sort of comes to the surface. But you can work away with that. And you just, so when I think I've been transformed in a really, in a good way. And the thing is, like, everything you do for yourself, you're sort of helping those around you, particularly actually your families.
It's so true. That is so true. And it goes to the when you're on an airplane, you know, at the beginning of the flight, you know, they tell us that we need to put on our own oxygen mask first in order to help those around us. And that's what you just said. It's like when we start taking care of us within, it starts to spread to those around us.
Well, with my daughter, like we tried everything. Like my husband is a coach, and we were like, read this, do this. Like we were desperate, and in the end, I thought, no, I just have to do what I love, be passionate, be happy and stable, and that will help her. And it's, you know, it's taking a while,
Well,
but it's definitely, you know, it does help. And at the end of the day, like you can worry about your child and sort of go crazy, sort of, you know, but your child is a soul with on their journey, and you know, it's up to them to decide what's right for them. And it's, you know,
true.
you can't wave a magic wand. So sometimes you're just going to have to just get on with your life, but sort of understand that, you know, what you're doing for you is actually helping, you know, helping them as well.
It's, yeah, yeah. I love that. You know, we were talking about the fifth dimensional space and the fifth dimensional space living from the heart. And, you know, from that place where we are more naturally connected to ourselves, our soul, our spirit, each other, recognizing that we all are one and we all are connected and we all are so much better together. You know, all of this awakening that's happening, and it's been happening and clearly is happening. You know, it's just it's beautiful to witness. It's beautiful to be part of. I mean, it's not easy, but you know, it's
It is
awesome.
very lucky. The
Yeah.
thing about the Akashic Records is it does create this little force field of 5D energy around you. So it makes it easier to connect with the field,
Yeah.
which is sort of around the planet and getting stronger by the day. And just to, you know, connect with the unity consciousness, just all that beautiful energy. And yeah, so it's it does help that, and it also is activating our quantum DNA, which I've talked about earlier. But
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that could not, that DNA is over 98% of our DNA. It could not express itself in that old energy. And scientists called it junk because they thought, well, it doesn't got a purpose, but it has. It's actually the gateway to our soul. And we're all going through this process where it's getting activated. There's layers that connect us to our soul, its wisdom, past lives, our Lemurian aspect, Pleiadian, everything. So it's all there. And I think what I understand is it's activated to a level of about, say, 37% at the moment. And I've read that Jesus was activated to 80. But the future
Oh,
is going to activate.
wow. Okay.
It's getting higher all the time. And the Akashic Records can sort of, it's one way, like it's a portal, it's a gateway to that energy, so it can sort of accelerate the process. So,
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. Amazing. I love that you're talking about the extraterrestrials, the other life out there that we, you know, have speculated about, have questioned, have wondered, have searched. You know, I think so many of us in our youth would, you know, look at the stars and always wonder. And then of course, you know, you've got you've got Star Wars and Star Trek, you know, that started to explode in the 60s and 70s and you know, to where we are today. How connected to us are they? Like
well,
how
very, very connected. Like I know a lot of people that speak light language, so that's pure language, dialects from the stars. Like I don't. I've got a sister who's really well known for it, and I don't know if it's quite my thing, but I know that within my DNA there'll be memories of how to do it. And I just feel they were around, like they're a bit weary of human beings
I don't blame
because
them.
we're so sort of barbaric, but they are definitely making their presence felt, and you know, trying to assist. What I understand is that the Pleiadians are trying to help us the most. Most of us on a soul level step down through the Pleiades, so we've all been Pleiadians. This is what I believe. The Sirians help them, so they're like a spiritual grandparents.
Oh,
The
interesting.
Arcturians helped them,
I was just going to say, what about the Arcturians? Because I think that's where I'm from.
Okay, that's interesting because I really relate to Sirius, but I know I probably stepped down through the Pleiades because it's closer, it's a fifth dimensional place.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Arcturians are lovely. Like they're really, I sometimes look, I'm working with someone, I'll bring them in to help with healing,
Mm-hmm.
particularly physical healing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll sort of feel their presence, and you can ask them because once you create that little beautiful high vibrational space, it's sort of easy for them to step in and assist. So they're just there, and it's just a question, as because you know a lot about spirit and connecting to spirit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're there, but you have to sort of ask for the help.
Well, it's true. And well, like any relationship, it's a give and a take. It's you participate in a relationship.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's absolutely fascinating. Years and years ago, somebody once told me, actually, that same lady told me that I was Arcturian, and I had no idea what that meant. But
Right.
after that, suddenly, as synchronicity would have it, I stumble upon this book called We the Arcturians, which is a channeled
Oh, that
book. You know,
Yeah.
I was looking for it, but here it was right in front of my face in this old bookstore. And I thought, okay, there's something about this, So, and I was just reading it the other day again, and it is really interesting when you start to discover these really seemingly out there aspects about yourself, and you ask for guidance, and and all of a sudden these synchronicities just kind of line up, and you're like, okay, well, there's something to this. And then,
Well,
developing a relationship is.
well, the thing is, yeah, it's give and take. So you have to,
Mhm,
with the Akashic Records, like you get the information, but you have to sort of act on it
mhm,
and be
mhm.
grateful for it, and then it sort of strengthens it. It's interesting because Linda Howe's book literally jumped off the shelf.
Yeah.
Found it. I went somewhere and I thought there's a book here in the shop, and I went in and it was like it was actually, there was a copy in the window. So I couldn't really ignore it. The great thing about the Akashic Records too is it's great for manifesting. So it's not all about the clearing, releasing, letting go of old programming and limitation, and all the memories of suffering and being persecuted and betrayed and killed and,
Mhm, mhm.
and doing it to others. Like we've all had those lifetimes, but the energy, because it responds directly to what you're thinking, it's fantastic for manifesting. But if you're feeling a lot of fear, obviously it works that way too. So
Mhm.
that's why it's good that there's a tool to sort of release all the stuff that might be clogging up your field. And then, the more sort of pure it gets, it's almost like you think of something, it happens immediately. Like I was thinking, I just need to go on some podcasts, and then I got your email. I thought it was sort of working, but it doesn't always work that
Yes.
well. You know what I mean? So it's a great manifesting energy, and it's about thinking really clearly what you want, but being careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very true statement too, because there's really no going back. It's like the Matrix, in that movie The Matrix, where he gives Neo the option of the blue pill or the red pill. Well, do you want to take the red pill where you stay in this sleepwalking state, or do you want the blue pill where you are aware of the reality of life?
Mm.
If you choose neither, you already know of that option. So it's like it's already inside you. So it's already part of your consciousness that there is more. And there's more of a reality than what we are experiencing today. I, I wonder, I would love to have a session with you. I would love to have a
Okay.
session with you. There's so many questions that I have about, not so much about my life, but just like humanity, where we are, and like within this ascension. I find it so interesting because as we are, more and more of us are waking up. It seems to be more chaotic than ever. More chaotic. In the United States, the mass shootings are just off the
Mm.
charts. I mean, I just saw something come across my feed earlier today that this last weekend we had a holiday weekend with Memorial Day, and there were 17 mass shootings and 156 people died. And I wonder
That's
what,
terrible.
yeah, what
So
is happening, you know?
I'm quite proud of my country.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but we had a prime minister who's now left, young woman who we had a terrible mass shooting here, and now we've got gun really regulations, and yeah, so it's possible, but it's probably easier to do in a country of 5 million people than the
Yeah.
US.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but no, the key thing is like things are getting worse, but
Mhm.
it's just part of what needs to happen before things get better.
I agree. That's what I've
And
said
it
too.
looks like chaos, but the thing is, a lot of these things have all the mass shootings not on that scale, but now we can sort of immediately in our living rooms hear about things.
Mhm.
So it just has to. There's because we're a planet of duality. There's sort of the light and the dark, and we were sort of talking before about how we've sort of played dark roles in other lives and light roles, and um, so at the moment, there's I believe that there are aspects on Earth that are sort of clinging, or souls that are clinging. They don't want things to change because
Yeah.
they've got a interest in having power control, blah blah. So there's definitely a lot of resistance and a lot of fight back. But
Yeah.
the light is winning; it's going to win. I talk about this quite a lot in my second book, Tragic to Magic, Beyond
Oh,
Suffering with Akashic Records, because it's not just about I talk about my sort of story a bit, an update on my family, but it's also really about what's happening on the planet.
I
And
I love that title, Tragic to Magic, Beyond
yeah,
Suffering with the Akashic Records. Tragic to Magic. Yeah. What's
yeah.
happening
So
right now is tragic.
we're going
And
from tragic to magic. And
Mhm.
what I'm noticing, there's just so many more miracles happening.
Mhm.
And we have to focus on that, because if we focus on the fear, it doesn't help us and it doesn't help anybody. Because as you know, like talking of the matrix or the field, like it all goes out there, and it affects everyone. So it's just, it's really important just to try to stay in that little space of love, of hope, of faith, of trust, of joy. And the Akashic Records makes that easier, actually, because
well,
it's
I would
very
imagine. I mean,
hard.
if you're accessing that daily and that is the energy in there, then how could it not but
Mm, mm.
improve with all those vibes, That's beautiful.
I know. And so that's how they've really helped me. So that's why now I'm really stepping more into a teaching role in trying to give these
Mhm.
tools to as
I
many
love
people as
that.
possible.
Yeah, thank you for all of that work. Thank you. It's really beautiful. Chris, this has been so enlightening. And there's so many places I wanted to go with this, but you can only get in so much time. And look, we've been talking for an hour already. So I hope to have you back. I'm definitely going to have a reading with you so that I can discuss my experience
Well,
and
we'll talk about it, because I
yeah,
want
and
to read
talk
it with
about
you.
it. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'd like
Yeah.
one with you. I lost my mother.
Oh, I can totally, let's trade. I'll do that with you.
I was so proud of my mother because she died on the 22nd of the 12th, 2022. And I thought, it was unexpected, but I thought, what great numbers.
Amazing.
Um, and I wanted to communicate with her, and I'm not, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, let's do that. Let's totally do
sort
that.
something out. It'd be fabulous. It'd
So,
be
Chris,
fabulous.
tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your books. Your first book, The Magic of the Akashic Records, Understanding Our Soul Journey, which published in 2015. And then your second book, Tragic to Magic, Beyond Suffering with the Akashic Records, published in 2021. Oh, that's a newer one. Okay. Yeah, I want to get those books too. Yeah, please tell us where they can find you, where they can find your books and your
Okay.
classes.
Okay. So if my website is www.akashicreadingsnz.com. If you go on the homepage, there's sort of and go down the bottom, there's extracts from the books. There's a link to buy the books. They're mainly, if you don't live in New Zealand or Australia, they're mainly through Amazon at the moment, but there is an ebook version, but some other outlets sort of have them as well. We used to have Book Depository, but that is no more
Okay.
recently. So through Amazon, and if on my website there's details about the workshops. I run online classes, a level 1, level 2, level 3. The details are there. I have got one coming up It's my last one for a while, and it's starts on June the 18th as level 1. It's on Saturdays in the US, but will be Sunday morning in New Zealand. So the timing for the US is quite good. It's on a Saturday afternoon, and there's a level 1 course that runs into level 2. And I'm just starting doing the level 3 practitioner course online as well, because up until recently it's just been like a residential course. Yeah. But now I'm doing that. So the details of all that, and if anyone has got any questions, they can email me at. I think you'll put those details up, will you, Jeffrey?
Yeah. I'll have all of that in the show notes. I'll have it all on YouTube, all the links for everybody to click to. And
fantastic.
Yeah. So Chris, thank you so much for being here. This has been a real eye-opening experience, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. No, well, I love the Akashic Records. I could talk about them all day.
Yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity. I'm really grateful to you, and I've loved this time with you.
Thank you. Me too. And everybody, we've loved this time with you out there, all the viewers on YouTube, the listeners on the podcasts. Take a look at Chris's information, her books. I'm going to get the books, and I'm going to have a reading with Chris, and I'm going to record it so that I can share with you guys all of this amazing information to show you how important it is and how transformative it is. So again, thank you, Chris. Everybody, we'll be back with you again next week. Be well. Thank you again for listening to the Something Super Spiritual podcast. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please do share it with a friend. For show notes, links, and to purchase a mediumship reading, my website is somethingsuperspiritual.com. You can also easily subscribe and follow the show on your favorite app, sign up for my newsletter for bonus content, and to keep the conversation going, you can easily join the Facebook community. It's all right there at the website, somethingsuperspiritual.com. Signing off for now, namaste.